Hi friends, today we will cover the topic the rise of Islam in Peru, a hidden spiritual movement. In a nation where the towering Andes cradle ancient traditions and Catholicism has long reigned as the dominant spiritual force, few would expect to find minarets rising quietly or prayer rugs unfurled beneath Peruvian skies. Yet beneath the surface of bustling cities and remote highland villages, a quiet spiritual awakening is taking root. The rise of Islam in Peru is not a movement splashed across headlines or driven by mass conversions. Instead, it is a subtle, deeply personal journey shared by a growing number of individuals who are drawn to the values, rituals, and discipline of a faith that many of their compatriots scarcely understand. This spiritual shift, often overlooked, is both a continuation of ancient human longing for meaning and a modern reflection of global interconnectedness. The introduction of Islam to Peruvian soil traces its origins not to contemporary missionary efforts but to the colonial past, when the Spanish Empire's sweeping reach extended from the Iberian Peninsula across the Atlantic. Among the early settlers and forced migrants arriving in the New World were individuals from North Africa and Andalusia, many of whom were Muslims or descendants of Muslims who had been forcibly converted or fled the Reconquista. Though many outwardly adopted Catholicism under duress, historical records show that crypto-Muslims, those who secretly maintained their Islamic faith, existed in parts of colonial Peru. A 1560 account tells of Lope de la Peña, a man of North African descent, who was arrested and imprisoned for life in Cuzco for practicing and disseminating Islam. Though isolated, this case points to a presence of Islam on Peruvian soil long before modern migration. Fast forward several centuries, and the next significant wave of Islamic influence arrived via migration from the Middle East. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, large numbers of Arabs, primarily Palestinians, Lebanese, and Syrians, fled turmoil in the Ottoman Empire and later conflicts in the Middle East. Seeking peace and opportunity, they settled in various parts of Latin America, including Peru. In Peru, many of these immigrants established themselves as merchants, shopkeepers, and entrepreneurs, becoming respected members of the business community. However, most of these early migrants were Christian Arabs, and those who were Muslim often found few means to maintain their religious practices. The dominant Catholic environment, language barriers, and cultural assimilation meant that Islamic identity became diluted over generations. Despite this, a handful of families preserved Islamic traditions, passing down stories, values, and customs that later sparked a renaissance among their descendants. These individuals began to seek out the deeper roots of their heritage, turning to Islamic texts, connecting with the global Muslim community, and slowly building local Islamic structures in Peru. One of the most significant milestones came in 1986 with the establishment of the Mosque of Lima. Located in the Magdalena del Mar district, this mosque became a symbolic and practical center for the Muslim community in Peru's capital. Donated by Palestinian businessman Miguel Abdel Hamide, it serves as a place of worship, community gathering, education, and outreach. Though modest in size, it represents a vital cornerstone for the reawakening of Islam in the country. Around the same period, small Islamic organizations began to take root in other parts of the country. In Tacna, a city in southern Peru near the Chilean border, the Bab al-Islam Mosque emerged thanks to the efforts of Pakistani businessmen. With its striking minaret and traditional architecture, it serves both the local Muslim population and traveling visitors, offering prayers, religious education, and a welcoming environment for converts and seekers alike. Unlike the Mosque of Lima, which reflects a Palestinian heritage, Bab al-Islam is more influenced by South Asian traditions, adding to the diversity within the Peruvian Muslim experience. Though mosques remain few in number, Islamic education has begun to flourish. Informal study circles, online courses, and visiting scholars from larger Muslim nations have helped create a network of learning that empowers Peruvian Muslims to deepen their understanding of the Quran, Islamic jurisprudence, history, and Arabic language. What distinguishes the Peruvian Islamic experience from that of larger Muslim populations, however, is the grassroots nature of its development. Lacking formal infrastructure or state support, Muslim Peruvians rely on mutual aid, volunteerism, and personal initiative to spread knowledge and strengthen community bonds. One of the most intriguing aspects of the rise of Islam in Peru is its intersection with indigenous worldviews. This is particularly evident in the case of Edward Quiroga Vargas, an indigenous activist from the Apurimac region who embraced Islam and founded the movement known as Inkari-Islam. His vision was to harmonize Islamic monotheism with Andean cosmology, seeing parallels in the emphasis on spiritual balance, community ethics, and respect for nature. Though controversial and not without critics, Inkari-Islam represents a genuine attempt to localize Islam in a Peruvian context, one that speaks directly to indigenous identity and historical memory. Quiroga's work underscores the possibility of Islamic practice not as a foreign imposition but as a compatible framework for ethical and spiritual life within Andean cultural systems. The process of conversion to Islam in Peru is often a solitary and introspective journey. Unlike in countries with well-established Muslim populations, where access to mosques, books, and mentors is abundant, new converts in Peru frequently begin their exploration online. YouTube videos, podcasts, translations of the Quran, and international Islamic forums serve as entry points for those who feel spiritually unfulfilled or disillusioned with traditional religious institutions. Many report feeling an immediate connection with Islamic teachings on monotheism, discipline, gender relations, and social justice. The practice of daily prayer, fasting during Ramadan, and the emphasis on personal accountability resonate deeply with individuals seeking a structured spiritual path. For women, in particular, Islam offers both challenges and empowerment. The decision to wear the hijab, for example, is not just a personal act of faith but a public declaration that often invites scrutiny or misunderstanding in a society unfamiliar with Islamic customs. Yet for many Peruvian Muslim women, the hijab symbolizes liberation from social pressures regarding appearance and a commitment to their beliefs. Several have become leaders within their communities, organizing educational initiatives, charity events, and dialogue with non-Muslim neighbors to promote understanding. Peruvian Muslims face numerous challenges, from the lack of Islamic schools to the difficulty of sourcing halal food. Despite these obstacles, the community continues to grow slowly but steadily. Converts often describe the Muslim community as a second family, small, supportive, and tightly knit. This sense of belonging contrasts sharply with the isolation many felt prior to their conversion and has become one of the primary attractions for those considering the faith. Interfaith dialogue is also on the rise. In Lima and other cities, Muslim leaders have participated in forums with Catholic clergy, Protestant ministers, and representatives of indigenous spiritual traditions to discuss shared values and social concerns. These dialogues help dispel myths about Islam and open space for cooperation on issues such as poverty, education, and environmental stewardship. While the Muslim population in Peru remains small, their presence is becoming more visible and respected within civil society. One promising development is the growing interest among young Peruvians in studying abroad in Muslim-majority countries. Scholarships from universities in Turkey, Egypt, and Malaysia have enabled dozens of students to immerse themselves in Islamic theology, Arabic language, and cultural exchange. Upon their return, these students often become vital resources for their communities, bridging the gap between global Islamic scholarship and the local Peruvian context. Despite its modest size, the Muslim community in Peru has demonstrated remarkable resilience and creativity. Whether through the establishment of new mosques, translation of Islamic literature into Spanish, or collaboration with NGOs on humanitarian projects, Islam in Peru is asserting itself not as a transient curiosity but as a rooted and evolving spiritual tradition. It is a reminder that faith, like water, finds its way, even in the most unexpected places. The future of Islam in Peru will likely depend on several factors: continued interfaith engagement, institutional support for education and worship, and the community's ability to articulate its values within the broader national identity. But one thing is certain: the seeds of Islam, once scattered across Peru's soil by history, migration, and spiritual yearning, are now beginning to take root and grow. As the sun sets over Lima's Pacific coast, casting golden light on the domes and courtyards of mosques, one can sense a quiet revolution underway. It is not a political uprising or a social upheaval but a deeper, gentler shift in consciousness, driven by individual seekers, migrant families, and indigenous leaders who see in Islam a path of justice, peace, and inner truth. It is, in every sense, a hidden spiritual movement, but one whose light grows steadily, day by day, prayer by prayer. Thanks for watching the video and stay tuned for next video.